I am going to be doing a reading for Molly this evening, and this is a Am I on the Right Path spread. Molly has requested this spread to have a focus on relationships. I've already shuffled my cards and laid them out and made some notes about this. So let's begin with the card in the first position, which is the Where Am I Now? And that card is the universe. It has the hand at the top, a planet, and a moon. Now, the universe card asks that you fully trust that there is a plan for you. And this card asks you to surrender to that which you cannot control. So the universe card in the position of where you are now I'm getting the sense that you are maybe feeling like you are being spread a little bit too thin. And maybe like you are being pulled in a lot of different directions. The universe is this completely vast expanse, and we want to trust in the process, but I think sometimes maybe we are feeling like we're just going through the motions, like we're a puppet, and we want to feel like we are in control of the situation, but maybe we are feeling like the situation is in control of us. And one thing that I thought was also interesting about this card is looking at some of the imagery on here. You'll see that there is a moon, a full moon in the center of it. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through the spread. It was interesting laying out these cards because at first glance it was sort of a, okay, this is interesting, where's this going? And as I studied them further and began to pick out some of these reoccurring patterns that show up through this reading, the moon is going to be one of them. The guidebook for this deck has a line that says that the universe card may come at a time when a cycle or a trial is coming to a close. And as things are moving forward or anticipating change, we can become paralyzed in our decision making when we try to view all possible outcomes. This card encourages a mindset shift. Instead of waiting on an external sign from the universe, the sign that you needed was inside you all along. So, what I mean by that is that in trusting our gut and what our heart is telling us, we are also trusting in the universe. We cannot separate ourselves from the universe. So this whole card is about trusting in the process and trusting that the universe has a plan for you. And it's not a either or, either I wait for a sign from the universe or I trust my gut. What this card is encouraging you to consider is that maybe the gut feeling and that instinct you have is the sign from the universe. It's the universe telling you something. So the second card in the spread is the Where Am I Going card. And this card is the Ancestors card. And as you can see, we have the figure in the center with the full moon behind it and the roots spreading down. Now, on a literal level, the Ancestor card is about connecting with your past, and it's about connecting with your ancestors, and if there's any sort of ancestral trauma that you would need to work through. That's what this card can represent. However, what I am sensing from this reading is that this card is about connectivity, but it wants you to connect with your inner self. So this card is asking us to tap into our instincts. It encourages us to step away from the noise of society and this card wants you to reconnect with your spirit. And looking at some of the imagery on the card, this card wants to nurture you. It wants you to go back to a time when you trusted in yourself fully. It wants you to look at where you came from and how you've grown and who you've become. And this card is encouraging you to learn from your past in order to forge a strong foundation for your future. Now, I had mentioned with the first card that there are some reoccurring images that show up through all of the cards on this spread, and one of those is the moon. You'll notice that there was the full moon in the center of the universe card. We have the full moon in the center of the ancestors card. And in the third position, we have the obstructions card. And the card in this position is the Sage. And you'll notice, again, third time, we have that moon in the center of the card. So in tarot, the moon represents our inner world. It represents our fears, our worries, and our emotions. And the sense that I'm getting through this reading is that this moon is also representing a lot of anxiety. I'm getting the sense that there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety. The moon is representative of this uncertainty and what it is encouraging us to do is to listen to and trust our intuition instead of letting these anxieties and fears dictate your decision making and your relationships. So, connecting that back to the ancestors card, I'm sensing that there may be some old issues that are coming to the surface that are in connection with that sense of anxiety and uncertainty. And these cards are encouraging you to trust and communicate your feelings and to tap into and communicate that internal voice. So this card, the Sage card, in the third position, it signifies obstructions to what you will be able to achieve by turning your focus inside. For the Sage card, I'm going to explain a little bit about what this card means, and then give a little clarification as to what that means in this position as an obstruction. So the Sage card, in general terms, is about encouraging you to see things from a higher perspective and to explore your inner spirit. The Sage is about wisdom and looking at things from a truthful and unbiased energy. The Sage calls you to tap into the wisest part of yourself. And it's about connectivity and examining relationships and the consequences behind actions. The Sage card also encourages us to share wisdom to empower others. So that's what the Sage card signifies. Now, because this card is showing up in the obstructions place, what the Sage card as an unbalanced presence means is that we can run into trouble when we are not going deeper into that introspection, when we are looking at things just at face value, when we are not looking at how things are connected. Nothing happens in a vacuum. And by that I mean that not just that everything happens for a reason. I mean that everything happens as a result. We need to examine patterns and process behind actions. Another thing that the Sage in unbalance can represent is, again, with that moon, leaning into anxiety and not wanting to confront your own feelings, or pushing these emotions down, and even becoming detached or cold or disregarding the feelings of others. Again, the Sage in balance is about encouraging us to share that wisdom. So the Sage out of balance would be disregarding the experiences of your student that you're trying to teach and communicate with, thinking that only you are right and only you have the answers. The Sage card reminds us that we cannot separate these things. There is always something new to learn. Now, I went into this reading with the intention of doing a spread for relationships. But what I am getting from these three cards is that this spread isn't asking you to focus on your external relationships. This spread is about the internal relationships and how focusing inward can affect everything around you. How each of these cards also, the universe, ancestors, the Sage, these three cards are all from the ether suit. In this deck of cards, each of the cards has a suit, just like, aces of spades or diamonds or hearts in a regular deck of cards. In this oracle deck, instead of hearts or diamonds, it is based on the elements. So we have water, earth, fire, and air. But there's also a fifth suit in this deck, and that is the Ether. And those cards represent the infinite, the self, analysis, and the internal landscape. So I thought that was really interesting that we have these three cards: the universe, ancestors, and sage. And these cards are all focused on that internal analysis, that connectivity, and also have that thread of anxiety and how that can affect things. Now, what is important is to keep going with this reading. I know that these three cards have been a little bit heavy, and in the fourth position, we have the final outcome. And in this card, we have self-love. You see there is the peacock in the center. And what I think is the most interesting is that in this imagery, we have this circle in the background, very similar to the circle on all of the other cards, but on this card, it is not a moon. We had that moon on all three cards, and then this fourth card, the moon is gone. And the self-love card is a water card. And the cards in the water suit represent autumn, intuition, the subconscious, mystery, receptiveness, and fluidity. So the self-love card as the final outcome. This reading is about relationships, but our relationship with ourself is the most intimate relationship that we will ever have. And it is a daily endeavor. We are so conditioned from an early age to doubt ourselves, to minimize ourselves, to shrink our gifts and our talents, and to change who we are in order to become a version of ourselves that we believe other people want to see. This card, the self-love card, is encouraging us to nurture that inner relationship. So again, with that ancestor card that wants to hold you and nurture you, that's where we're going. Our outcome is this self-love card, where you are nurturing yourself and that inner relationship with your heart and body and spirit. And this card is encouraging you to check in with yourself. And it's not a immediate change. It's not a, okay, I drew this card, now suddenly all of this negativity has fallen away. It is a daily endeavor, something that you will continue to have to work on. But there are some ways and tools that you can have to support yourself with that. The guidebook for this deck had a couple questions that it encouraged us to ask ourselves. Imagining that you are in a space that you love yourself exactly as you are. What does that space feel like? What are your priorities? How do you engage with others? With this card, it is encouraging us to view ourselves with kindness. And with that nurturing energy, resetting negative views that we have about ourselves. What are qualities that you may have previously viewed as weaknesses? Qualities that you may have tried to push down or have been told that you need to change about yourself. How can we view those qualities as strengths instead? With that, the image on the card is a peacock. And we know peacocks are bright and majestic and vibrant, and they don't hide their unique beauty away. Peacocks have all of this vibrant colors in order to attract a mate, but the peacock doesn't shine with any expectations. The peacock doesn't have that daily struggle of fighting against self-doubt. The peacock doesn't think, I need to love myself before I can love somebody else. The peacock just is. The peacock exists as itself. What this card is telling us is that you can shine just by being you. I found that this was a really interesting reading, and noticing that these patterns that emerged as I turned over each card, and we have this end goal of self-love, and we see that that moon and the anxiety and the illusions and the stress and that inner turmoil has fallen away, and we just have this confidence and this feeling of being self-assured and loving and nurturing ourselves. The themes that I got from this reading are about anxiety and intuition and self. That self guidance that we need to tap into and that we need to learn how to trust. These cards are all asking us to look inside for that judgment. Looking at the internal landscape. And seeing, just like the roots on the ancestor card and the strings of the universe that are guiding us, how everything is interconnected, everything is related. And instead of looking to the universe to send us a guide, the universe is saying, I already sent you the guide. It's here. You are the guide. I hope that this spread has been helpful. I always like to end my readings by explaining my relationship with the cards is that these cards are a mirror and they are revealing what is already present. They are not going to tell you the future. They are going to reveal the path that you were always meant to be taking. And that path is one that ends with this really beautiful card of self-love.